Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Hauk.
I'm Maddy Webben.
I'm Anthony, my days are numbered, Lerma.
Oh, you are.
And today we'll be playing the final episode of our series on Suikoden 2. But before we get started with all of that, how was everyone's week?
Oh man, I had something I was excited to talk about. So Possum Boy is my visual novel that me and Maddy Grace are working on that I wrote. It's really moving forward. I'm building the scenes in Ren'Py. Maddy Grace showed me how to do the extremely basic coding to build the scenes.
Yeah, me and Bernard basically had a little tutorial sesh where I showed Bernard how to do a thing, it's very simple, but you know, coding is really hard if you're someone that has like zero experience with it and a brain that doesn't work that way.
Which is me.
but I showed Bernard how to do it, and now he's doing it, and he's generating a nice little bulleted list of things for me to do.
Yes, and it's really exciting. The problem is I'm like putting these scenes together, and I'm like, ooh, I'll have them slide in this way, and I'll put it in. I'll make the screen shake here. I'm so excited, but then I don't have anyone to show it to, just because of how it works. So I'm just putting it up in our Google Drive and waiting for Maddy Grace to look at it, because she's the only one that will be seeing it for now.
Yep. And if you're thinking that's not how versioning works, shut up, don't at me. My week, I don't really know too much. Congratulations to Sean O'Brien and Fred Zuckerman, the new president and vice president of the Teamsters. They're the guys that I was working really hard to elect a few months ago, but they finally took office. That's exciting. They did take office at 8 a.m. on a Sunday, which means 8 a.m. on a Thursday. So I didn't watch it. No, wait, it's 6 a.m. God damn it. Congratulations. Can't wait to see how next with the Teamsters. They've already hit the ground running doing badass shit. Second thing is, I just found out that surprising nobody, Breath of the Wild 2 got delayed. Did y'all see that like 5 seconds ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, it got delayed to 2023. Again, surprising nobody. I think pretty regularly, I think, man, that game's still saying 2022, huh? I don't buy it. Yeah, so there's that. That's pretty much it. My life's really good. I feel like lately, kind of like Eli, and Eli, if you're listening to this, I mean this in the most loving way possible. I feel like, similar to Eli at times, my life is only interesting when I have things to complain about. Or like, if you say, how was your week? And I have something to say, it's because of something that's bad, right? So no, nothing interesting happened to me this week.
I have a minor, very good thing. Well, two good things. First thing, mouthful mode. It's great.
I'm so excited to play it. I'll be playing it very soon.
Second thing, Scarlett isn't deaf, so she, being the child of a potentially autistic, like now that we're growing up, we're like, Summer, all the things that like are you being quirky are on the list of like potentially you being on a spectrum. So interesting. And then me with probably undiagnosed ADHD, Scarlett says huh a lot because she's not fucking listening, because either of her parents have a listening gene. We just don't have it. So she could not get it from anywhere. But because she said that a lot, and at her yearly checkup, she was like either distracted or messed up or something. One of the hearing tests, they're like, there might be something there. So we went to the audiologist today, and Scarlett passed with flying colors. So she's not deaf. She is, however, probably very blind, because at her yearly, she was standing there to read the letters because Scarlet knows her letters, so she could do the thing. And the doctor was like, "Don't move and tell me what this says." And Scarlet took like 4 steps forward, leaned over, and squinted before she could read it. So she's probably blind as a bat. And next week, I think, is her optometrist appointment where she's going to wear big old nerd glasses like her mom and dad.
Cute.
Yeah.
Little 4 eyes.
Yeah. And since we did that test, we know that Scarlett's not just a kid and standing in front of the TV because everyone wants to stand in front of the TV because she can't see it. We've felt guilty telling her to sit the fuck down while we're all trying to watch TV, but still, sit the fuck down. We're trying to watch TV. Just squint. Like, you don't. It's in Japanese. You can't read fast enough, anyways. Just sit down and just squint and just look at the pretty colors for 2 more weeks, and then you can have your glasses. We can't read the subtitles through your fucking head. But yeah, that's the main thing that's happened with me. I also beat New Super Lucky's Tale, and it's solid. It's not great, but it was enjoyable to quote unquote 100%. I looked at the achievements. Nice. The last of the achievements that I have to actually 100% it are fucking stupid, and I'm not going to do them. So I got all the collectibles. Which
since you're talking about video games, I feel like I should mention, because oftentimes we say when we're playing video games we're watching good movies, and I treated myself last week to the video game Eschatos for the Switch. It is a shmup that I've heard nothing but the best possible things about. I bought it, and the thing about Eschatos is it came out in 2011 on XBLA by some not particularly major dev, sort of an indie shmup dev. But so the Switch release, though, not only contains Eschatos 2011, but also contains that same dev's previous, or 2 of their earlier games, Judgment Silver Sword and Deadly Sins 2001, which is really cool. So my 2-sentence pitch is Eschatos is one of the best ones I've ever played, and it's not close. And the second thing is I spent way more time playing Judgment Silver Sword because, I don't know, I decided to go back in time and see. The games were very similar. Like, they literally were iterating on the same ideas. So I decided to go back to the beginning and see where it all started, and I got really into that game, and now I feel like I can't go back to the actual game I paid $30 to play until I've like had my fill of Judgment Silver Sword. But it's a really, really great shmup, originally released for the WonderSwan. So it's got these great old school looking graphics. It's simple. It's very simple. Its name sounds like Radiant Silvergun because it's inspired by Radiant Silvergun's minimalism, but even more minimalist. And it rules. Highly recommended. It's like $25 for 3 phenomenal shmups. And the second thing is I baked a 3-layer cake for the first time in my life, and I'm very proud of myself.
Nice.
Good job.
Wait, what are the layers?
All the same. Like it was a
okay.
It's a bog standard cake. My friend's had a birthday, and I wanted to bake her a birthday cake. So I used a cookbook that I have that's really good, and went with its standard birthday cake recipe, where the cake layers were all just like a yellow buttery yellow sponge. And a chocolate icing, and some sprinkles, and a little candle on top, and it turned out really well, and I felt good about myself, and I can't wait to see what I bake next.
Nice.
That's so cool. So what I did was, like many people did, is I host an annual Oscar party. The Backstreet Boys reunion tour canceled last year's, but this year's was in full force. So I had 10 people, friends over. We were all eating Mediterranean food and laughing, catching up, but kind of watching the Oscars and doing bingo. And then it happened. And
you won Best Production Design, you mean?
It did. That is true. So I've never been in a newsroom, but seeing like I feel like we were in the BuzzFeed newsroom because it's a whole bunch of millennials getting on their phone trying to see if this is like fake. With the whole Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, and if that was staged, could it have been staged? Why was it muted? What's going on? What's happening? And it was just like a good 40 minutes of just like trying to figure it out till someone found the Australian feed and we all watched it on the big screen. Sam's watching the Oscars and switched over to that. But it was very fun. It was just it made me realize like how fun it is when things happen with your friends and you all happen to be together, and it's just like, this is going to be very memorable no matter when we reflect on this.
Yeah.
Obviously not the best circumstances for us, but it was a very memorable time. And then for video games, I beat Ghost of Tsushima, which was great. I really liked it, but the ending was kind of made me want more, so I think that's a good thing. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Like, I don't know where I wanted that story to go. I don't want it to go the Assassin's Creed style, or it just keeps going. I more love the world. I just hope, the next game innovates in the right ways. So that's always a worry. And I started playing a softer game called Life is Strange True Colors.
Yo!
Yeah, so for those who don't know, The Life is Strange is if you were ever an art teen,
yeah.
Just indie soundtrack, kind of like shoegazy feel, sort of like questions of like your own sexuality and your own place in the world, and just like what adults tell you can't believe, kind of like feelings. This one, to show how indie it is, the main character shows up, finds a guitar, and sings a acoustic version of Creep. But I don't know, it feels really nice. It's set in a small Colorado town. I'm just loving the walking simulator after doing Ghost of Tsushima, where it was very stressful. So yeah, it's really great. Check it out if you haven't. I'm playing it on PlayStation 4.
I think the most important thing to note about the Life is Strange games, which I have not played, is that the first game has the line, "That is a tasty plasma. Maybe I could sneak in and watch Final Fantasy Spirits Within." Yep.
One thing that's important is that the games are published by Square Enix. So yeah, the first game has a really funny line where one of the main character's favorite movie is Final Fantasy Spirits Within, which tells you a lot about her character. Yeah, I only played the first season of it, the one with the time travel-y stuff, and yeah, honestly, I'd say in the upper echelons of walking sim type games. Very, very, very nice.
Yeah, it is on mine and Summer's short list of the next games we're going to play. We're going to finish Witcher 3, and then from there either go and finish Tales of Berseria or start the Life is Strange series.
Oh, don't play the one that they made that was a sequel to the original series, though, starring Chloe, because they got another dev to make it because the main dev didn't want to make it, and they also made it during a SAG-AFTRA strike or something, and went non-union with all the voice actors. So don't do that.
Okay.
I think it's called After the Storm. The second one really takes on police brutality during everything that's happened and was being released at the same time. So they're very topical, too.
Yeah.
Nice. I will do that. What I will also do is segue into talking about final section of Suikoden 2.
It ain't much, folks.
I'm going to miss this game.
So, Maddy, what happens when we're off to Ratatouille?
So, we're going to have to back up a little, I'm going to back up a little bit because if you recall, overplayed slightly last week. So, I will back up to stuff that I played already, but y'all hadn't last time. So, when we last left our heroes, we were about to go and we were basically doing a go for broke attack where it's like, the only way we're going to win this war is not if we keep exchanging like military maneuvers with the opposing army. What we're going to do is we're going to cut through all of that and head right for the enemies, for the capital of Highland, and basically, twist their arm until they say uncle. So we the last thing that happened, and I'm going to remind you of this because it's important. The last thing that happened was two things. One was that last scene we saw a dramatic scene where Joey collapsed for no particular reason, and we weren't sure why. And that wasn't followed up on yet. It will be this time around in some timelines. And the other thing we learned was that we were about to have the big battle, but Shu and Apple had a heart-to-heart, and this thing ended up happening where she like picked a card that had like a fire symbol on it. What? So anyway, the next day we're about to go do the big attack. Our army against their army, big complicated shenanigans, right? So their army is being led by Leon. We thought that he died last time. There was this whole thing. No, he didn't. So Shu stays back doing something else sneaky. As usual, he asks Victor for help, but this time says it's his final mission. That was supposed to be like an old Snake from MGS4 in Japanese voice, but yeah. So it turns out that the final mission is this is a pretty long scene. It's another like fake war military battle that goes on for like 30 seconds before being clearly a cutscene. So basically, there's a few different brigades, and Leon basically like plays himself, where Leon is like, oh man, I can clearly see that if I go after this army, then this army is going to sort of do a sneaky trying to get me. And if I go after the other army, then the first army is going to do blah, 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 blah. So, man, Shu's really trying to get me, but I'm going to get him. Instead of taking on either army, I'm just going to go and directly attack the small contingent where Shu, the general himself, is. And everyone's like, what if that's a trap? And he's like, no, it's not a trap. Come on. And the reason he doesn't think it's a trap is because Shu is too cowardly to ever put himself in direct danger. So he's like, the Shu would obviously not be planning for me to attack him. Shu probably never suspects I would attack him because he's a coward. So he goes after Shu, who runs into the forest, and he follows that small brigade into the forest. And it was actually a trap. Shu totally outplayed Leon, and what ends up happening is that Shu burns the entire forest to the ground, which is why we had the fire card from before, and why Shu says it was his final mission. So the forest is all on fire, everyone's dying. It's clear that every single person in this scene is going to die. And they have their final talk, and it's mostly just them doing normal, I don't know, dialogue stuff, but Leon does have one line that I really liked. He says, I'm not impressed, ... by whatever Shu did. And then he says, listen to me, punk. History doesn't flow. It moves in leaps and fits. Sometimes it must be pushed along by men like us. If a bit of suffering is the price you must pay, then pay it I will. That's a line I mentioned last week, but couldn't tell you all about. So then Apple shows up and realizes, oh my god, the whole forest is on fire. This is what's going on. So she and some other people charge into the forest and actually rescue Shu. Shu had intended to kill himself. That was the whole point. He's sacrificing himself, but he didn't. He gets saved. He's actually kind of annoyed about it. He's like, I'd made my peace. I'd done the whole sacrificing myself thing. I was ready to die. I definitely haven't put any thought into what I'm going to do after this point. You've kind of messed up the whole thing by saving me. It's pretty funny. I kind of get it. And I don't mean that in like I'm a suicidal person kind of way. I just mean like it makes sense to me that once you already assume you're going to die, it's kind of annoying that you have to do something else now. Anyway, so that was what happened. So now it is time to we did it. We pretty much owned their whole major army. All that's left is to invade Le Renouille. Bernard, I know this isn't actually good French, but how should I attempt to pronounce this?
You shouldn't. No
If we
one
took out
should.
the L, if we took out the L apostrophe, what would that word be?
I don't know. I'm not looking at it right now.
Renoouille.
It's Ratatouille.
Yeah.
All right. I was just curious. We're going to Le Ratatouille, folks.
Let me look it up so I can look at it. Yeah, just like basically.
Cool. There
Or
we go.
I think, I don't know. It's been so long since I've studied French.
I was just curious. So we go to invade the actual city, and we are still up against an army, but not as big of one. We're up against Seed, Colgan, Uber, Lucia, and the long-absent Second Army, who has never shown up in the game so far. We're always like, where's the Second Army? Turns out they're the Royal Guards, so they never show up because they're always defending the city, right? And they're led by someone named Hal Cunningham. We have
Actually, Han, the one where it says, "Oh look, it's Hal Cunningham." That's a typo because it's a PlayStation 1 RPG. When his talking head shows up, it's Han.
Here's the thing. I definitely just thought that this guy's name was Hal and that Han from later is a different guy. But now I realize that they're the same guy. Okay, cool. We run into Han, who we will run into again later. Not a different guy. So we have an actual for real army battle this time. These battles can be somewhat variable as far as like flowchart of cutscenes. I just got one plot scene where Uber senses the way the wind is blowing and gets out of there. Did y'all get anything different?
I think that's all that happens.
Okay. The fact that he did that, I figured like other characters would do that too, right? But like they didn't. So, it's a real battle though. The last one of the game, the last army battle of the game, and we win. And we get to Le Ratatouille. We're here. If you're following a guide, the guide says that you can immediately leave and go to a nearby town to do stuff, but I didn't. Did y'all?
Yes, I went there to get the gold hammer so that my blacksmith could upgrade my weapons to level 16.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So, I had to do this twice because I didn't realize you could leave, and I hadn't saved at the I died on one of the boss fights coming up, and so I hadn't saved since before doing the whole thing, and it was a big old thing. I'm like, how am I supposed, like, there should be a save or a N or something to let me do it. And so I was walking around trying to go into like the little tent there at the front, and I accidentally left my second time through, and I'm like, oh, look at this entire world map at my disposal that I could just do whatever I want. Okay. And so then I did go and get the gold hammer and stuff to face the final boss better. But
I hate that you can't go in that tent.
It bothers me. Why is it there if it's
it looks
not
like you should be able to go in?
I don't know what you're talking about, but I'll act like I do. Believe it. Anyway, so we enter the dungeon, and before we even have a dungeon, like literally the second we enter, we run into Lucia. I, at this point, am thinking, man, I really hope that she turns good at the, like, during this scene, because, like, she just really does seem kind of misguided. So, she says that she lost her army, but not her spirit. She's gonna avenge them all, and the king, etc., etc. So we fight her. I had no problems with this fight, did y'all?
No.
I think this is the one that I died on the first time, but the second time I beat her in, like, 2 turns.
Nice. As I was explaining prior to starting the pod, I for pretty much the first time ever, really, in I think the history of this pod, I have actually been following a guide very closely the whole time. I haven't been playing like an idiot the way I normally play games, the way I like to play games, and I'm instead instead playing like a reasonable person. So I've gotten to the point where I've always got the equipment that they say to have, always got the spells they say to have. So I'm having a good time. I'm having no issues with any of these things, and I'm like, damn, so this is what it's like, huh?
Is magic every turn, all character, as much as you want.
Yes,
that's the strategy.
Yeah,
I'll have words about that strategy when we get to a certain boss.
I haven't played this much of a magic heavy game since like FF6.
Yeah, it's crazy. So much magic.
So afterward, Teresa shows up, and Lucia is heavily, possibly mortally injured. And Teresa says, Lucia, I wasn't lying. I promised I will do right by your people, and I will, even if it means tarnishing my father's legacy. Do you really just want to die, even though I'm saying this? Teresa then turns away from Lucia for a moment, and Lucia rushes her with her dagger raised. Everyone hollers, but Teresa doesn't move. And sure enough, Lucia stops her dagger. Teresa says she knows Lucia, and she knows Lucia would never kill an unarmed opponent, and even that she trusts Lucia. It's really cool how much she seems to know this person. It's like, even though they haven't like spent a lot of time together or talking or anything like that, it's like it's like real heads know, like game recognized kind of situation. I really like it. It's never explained like why she trusts Lucia so much. It's just kind of an intuitive understanding of her. So anyway, Lucia drops her knife, and once again, she still can't bring herself to actually trust us, but she does say, look, just go do your thing, and I'll see what happens. So that's as good as it'll get. So we go through a very boring dungeon with dope music, and eventually we see a bunch of dead guards. We proceed and encounter Han. I'm like, who is that again? I didn't just fight him a second ago. That was Hal. He says we couldn't stop the Bright Shield and Black Sword Rune from fighting after all. They merely bought us more time. Sorry, we merely bought more time. And I'm like, what's he talking about? Then he says that his duel with Genkaku continues now. Now I realize, oh shit, it's that guy. I think that's really cool. Han was the guy from the backstory with Genkaku. And he's here now. So he's like, yeah, me and Genkaku's plan to bring peace failed, and here I am, fighting you again. We have a duel. He strongly telegraphs all of his moves way more than usual. At least that was my impression, which might have some plot relevance. Like maybe he's subconsciously wanting you to beat him or something. Did y'all feel that way?
I mean, that's just sort of how all the duels go. They say what they're going to do, and you just have to...
Yeah. Maybe I was reading too much into it. Maybe I was reading too much into it, because beforehand I would sometimes be like, what's that? What's he saying here? This time I was just like, man, you're basically just begging me to kill you. But maybe that was just me.
So I guess I have text box Asperger's, because I have never once been able to properly guess what they're saying by the little text box. Like his defending text is, "You think you can beat me, boy?" That doesn't tell me that he's defending. But apparently it makes perfect sense to all you guys, and I'm just wrong. But I just save state right before, and I do wild attack until I win.
I mean, I get it wrong a lot of the time, but...
Yeah, I get it wrong a lot, but this time it was just like... We were just like on the same wavelength, I guess. Okay, cool. I wasn't sure if I was picking something up narratively there or not.
I think you're right, Maddy. I think it's like the Elite Four. I think you're building to the big bad, and none of these people are bad. They just believe in what they're trying to do, and they realize they lost. They're basically at the end of their war or whatever battle, and so they're coming to terms with that. And we're seeing it in real time. I think
that's true, especially given. That becomes a lot more obviously true in a little bit, but I think you're right that it could be true here as well. There could be a subtle defeatism interlacing all these characters' dialogue, which is really interesting for the final dungeon of a video game. Usually it's like, we're the weak heroes and we have to try and beat the strong guys. I hope we can do it. And here it's like, they're doing the final stand against us. Anyway, so after we defeat him, he does drop a little bit of knowledge. He says, I'm just going to quote it word for word, he has a lot of ellipses. This chapter is really heavy on the ellipses. He says, Toby, I have to apologize to all of you. The Bright Shield Rune and the Black Sword Rune were once one, in its true form, in it apostrophe s true form, as the Rune of Beginning. It has the power to end war. But in order to wield that power, you must first... Toby... You're a strong young man. Ginkaku and I were weak. Forgive us for that weakness. Go now. And then he either dies or stays there as we run off. He'll be dead soon anyway. So next we run into Kulgan, and there is dungeon here, by the way. Next we run into Kulgan and Seed. They pretty much just say, hey, we can't let you through. We still love our country and we'll die for it. There you go. And
we're like, yeah, you will.
Yeah, as Anthony said, saying we'll die for our country implies that defeatism, not we're willing to die for it. They're basically saying we're going to fight you even though we know we are going to die and this won't matter. It's the principle of it. Then we fight them and we beat them. And then they say, oh, actually, just before we fight, they say, just like Luca Blight, you will destroy everything in your path. After they're defeated, they don't really have much to say, and we continue on. But after Toby and Co leave, Kulgan and Seed share a final conversation that we are privy to. They say to each other, it's a shame. We had, note the past tense, hoped that Joey would lead Highland to a better future. But the implication, I think, given that things haven't gone as they expected, but they're glad that they're dying. They're glad to be dying along with their country. Again, I think implied as opposed to having to live to see whatever the fuck is going to come next. So next, we see Pilika and Joey in a bedroom with a dramatic side view. Joey says to Pilika that he's saying goodbye for the last time and that she will probably never see him again. After some pleading, she eventually understands that he's serious. He tells her, and again, this is verbatim, Pilika, lots of ellipses, listen to me, lots of ellipses. Then he says, you're going to grow up and meet lots of people, and you're going to lose a lot of people too. So don't forget, Pilika. Enjoy the moments you have together, because nothing lasts forever. She understands what he's saying. She's been around the block enough to be able to understand this concept. She asks him one last favor, which is for him to pick her up and hold her like her dad used to. He does. It's a very sweet scene. Then Julia comes in. Joey had previously summoned her. He tells her it's over. The castle's going to fall. So yeah, he knows he ain't lying to himself. He knows it's the end for him. She is to take Pilika and flee to Harmonia. He's already prepared a place for them to live out their lives with new identities. Joey says, kind of instinctively, he's just like mutters to himself. He's like, Julia, ... like, I'm sorry. And she's like, what did you say? And he's like, huh? And she's like, don't you dare say I'm sorry. And he's kind of like taken aback, but she presses. And then she says, you think I didn't know how you used me, what you did to my brother and father? I knew all along. But even then I always loved you, for your dreams, for your goals. Why do you apologize to me now? You don't need to say sorry. You're my husband and the man I will always love. Then she asks if he would. A perplexing scene happens next.
Very perplexing.
It becomes clear in retrospect what happens, but at the time it really leaves you hanging. Actually, it may or may not become clear what happens depending on your timeline. So she asks if he would shed tears if she died. He doesn't say he would, but he says, please live. She turns to leave, so she's walking out the door. But then, as the scene goes dark, she turns and dashes back at him. And then, with the screen completely dark, she says, this is my final farewell, Joey. And then he says, farewell, Julia. And then we cut away. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
I have no fucking clue.
My initial thought was like, she's going to run and they're going to hug and it's just going to fade out. My second thought was like, they're smooching, they have sex, something like that. Then my third thought was, did she just kill him? Did they just kill each other? Like, did they just do like a suicide pact?
Like, no, they didn't.
Based on her. Well, We're going to find out in a second. Or we might never find out, Bernard, depending on what ending you get. That's why I wanted to leave you hanging.
In the bad ending land, I have no fucking clue what happened right there.
Yeah. There is one ending where this is the last we see of them.
Yeah, that's the ending that I got.
Which is a very interesting ending. So yeah, I didn't know how to read this scene. I was expecting to walk into the room and find out like 5 seconds or like 10 minutes later, you know?
For some reason, this scene, the ending of this scene didn't jump out at me. They were just like, farewell, farewell. And I was like, oh, they're saying farewell to each other. They're saying goodbye. They're having a final loving embrace when they say goodbye. And it didn't occur to me that they were killing each other or anything.
I don't know, the fact that she was already leaving, the fact that the screen faded to black, it just seemed so weirdly dramatic to me.
Her run animation back towards him is like aggressive too.
It was a very intense run, yeah. But yeah, I will spoil it. Bernard's read is correct. Yes, they probably just embraced, and then 10 seconds later she said, okay, bye, and then walked out the door. Is probably what actually happened there. But you don't need to know that you know that. So we back in control of the player, not having seen that scene at all, and expecting to probably have our dramatic final confrontation with our old friend Joey in like just a second. We proceed to the final room, which is a very dramatic throne room with really dope foreground tiles, which is always good for me. We get to Leon, who is about to become, spoiler alert, the final boss. So Leon, after having died last week in a really sneaky trick by, not by Shu, by, who was that guy that died?
Iba.
Yes. And then after having died again, after being burned down in a forest by Shu, is actually still not dead. Makes sense. He is kind of built up as like the most badass guy ever. He says something that is a little hard to understand. Or wait. Why did I say that it was hard to understand? Hold on.
Because it's Suikoden 2.
No, hold on. I'm trying to look at what the part it was that I was confused about.
Was there a part? He just wants chaos.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm reading ahead because I wrote in my notes that this part's hard to understand, but now I don't think that it was. Anyway, here's what he says. He says, well, this is the end. The beast rune that Luca Blight left, its demonic incarnation, is here. The demon that fed on the blood and souls of the Muse citizens, it's all I could do just to keep it sealed here. It was Luca's plan all along to unleash the beast on the world. This is your final test. Can you win this time, Toby? Maybe the part I was confused by was the idea that he says he was keeping it sealed. Maybe that's it. I don't really know.
Yes.
Anyway, then there's a whole bunch of graphics where the final boss appears. And the final boss is basically a giant ghost that has two wolf heads and also a big glowy rune thing. We have a final boss. It's quite difficult. I had to give it a couple tries, though I never had to like leave and level up or anything like that. What about y'all?
I think I got it on my second try, but it was rough going.
Yeah, I got it on my second try because this whole game, the answer has been magic. And the first boss to be strong against magic is the beast rune. And magic does piddly damage to him. So I had to go and train up some better frontline fighters and get runes to assist their physical nature because I had been neglecting that side of the thing. And once I did that, it was pretty good. I do like that this boss is the opposite of the War of Attrition. So like normally a boss will have phases and you'll get to the fourth phase when you're already weak and it suddenly becomes harder. This one is the opposite, where it's just balls hard from the beginning, and then you weaken it as you go along. And so once you get the first thing dead, you're like in the clear and can keep on going. And I like that.
Yeah, so Sam's point, same thing. But I had frontline fighters that I was using, like obviously Flick was already pretty strong, and then just really wailing them turn after turn, healing every turn, even if people didn't need it, just in case, because he attacked so many damn times. And then just like wishing for the best. Nobody died. I think that would have my I guess Will would have been dashed if somebody died, because you can't tell if you're weakening him. There's no indication other than like he's lost a leg, he's lost an arm, and you're like, well, I'm getting there, I think.
Yeah,
it's a pretty good dramatic fight. Although I find it a little bit confusing, given that this is the final battle, but it is no surprise twist here.
I have a question really quick. The Beast rune, is it a true rune? Like, because I never know how those work.
I think it is. I think it is like a real big bad true rune because because it can only be defeated by another true rune.
I assume it's a true rune because it's a big fucking deal. Yeah, I just looked it up. It's one of the 27 true runes.
Okay. Yeah. But it's just the only sacrifice. Like, it's the only one you have to use a sacrifice of some sort. Like, there's details, I guess. I don't know.
There's 27 of them, man.
Yeah.
There can be all sorts of shit in there.
Yeah, who knows? But at any rate, you fight it, and you beat it. After you beat him, we have what is largely a pretty bog standard ending with some complications. So the castle starts to collapse because we defeated the boss, so of course the castle's going to collapse, right? And everyone's like, okay, but like, where's Joey? That's kind of the whole dramatic arc. Where's Joey? And we, especially Toby, want to go look for him, you know? But everyone's like, there's no time for that. We have to escape. So it's a but thou must. We don't get to make a choice to go find him. So we have a long scene where we escape from the castle, and outside the castle, everyone's like, you know, they don't know if we're going to make it, and then we do, and they all clap us on the back and are just so happy that we've had victory. The next day, we wake up in our castle. The mayors of Tinto and Two River are here to see us. We get to control the characters now, and we can get one of two different endings if we didn't get all 108 stars. So there's two endings here. The first ending is we go and talk to the mayors. And this talking with them and then making a certain dialogue choice triggers the ending. They say, hey, so us and also representatives of the other city-states, we talked and we figured, you know, like, so we defeated Highland. That's awesome. But that doesn't mean that everything's automatically peachy. First of all, there's still Harmonia to the north, which, like, they're not officially we're not like at war with them, but they were just helping out Luca. So it's a bit of a tricky situation diplomatically. Also, the city-states themselves are always having arguments and tensions, as you've seen throughout this entire game. We really need to all come together for defense and to create a prosperous society. They decide to dissolve the prior city-state structural arrangement and instead create a unified nation, Toby Country. They've all decided already that they're chill with this, so we get to pick, do we want to do it or not? Or ... I did not pick ... unfortunately. If you pick yes, we get ending 1. We make a new country. They say, you know, by the power invested in me. They don't say that, but they say, like, Shu is like, I'm proud to announce the creation of a new unified country. Let's all go make it a good one. And then there's a montage scene that follows that I really like. It shows it's got some beautiful, happy music that plays, and it shows everyone doing the hard work of having a country. Things like signing papers, having meetings, walking down a hallway, telling a guy to go tell another guy something. I'm being silly here, but there is a lot of this, and it's very cute. There's also scenes like the army training and people eating food, and it's people rebuilding. It's really cool. However, just before the credits, we have a very touching little ending scene. Well, not even a scene, just a shot. So just before the credits, we end with a shot of Toby standing outside of Muse. This is the exact identical shot that we had when Toby and Nanami waited outside of Muse at sunset, waiting for Joey to show up so long ago. But now he's standing there alone because Nanami died, and Joey is completely MIA. We don't know if he lived or died or what. So he gazes into the distance, and then the credits roll. That's the ending. The implication is that, you know, Toby might live the rest of his life waiting for his friend to show up. This sort of unresolved sort of heartbreak. I think it's a very good ending. In fact, if it was the only ending the game had, I think I'd probably still think it was a really good ending. Cool. However, it's not the only ending the game has. So for ending number 2, if you pick it, so when they all ask, do you want to make a new country? You can say no. And they have some interesting scenes where you kind of walk away and different characters are like, what are you doing? And then other characters like Victor are like, let him go his own way. He knows what he's doing. Or you just don't go to the meeting at all. They say, hey, the mayors want to meet with you. And you're like, nah. At this point, you can go everywhere if you want to and do a victory lap. I didn't, unfortunately, but you can. Anyway, here's the thing. The way I'll narrativize this is that, you know, Toby hears that there's a meeting. He senses that this is the start of something really new. He senses that it's over, that they're going to be moving on as a society. Like, you know, is no matter what, you know, it's like we've been saying ever since Persona 3, you know. Yesterday, a horrible tragedy happened, but today you still have to go to school, right? It's like, yesterday you just had a very serious thing, but duty calls. You're the president. You're the commander in chief. You know, go to the fucking meeting. But instead of going on with this momentous rebuilding of society, he remembers that he made someone a promise. Maybe he just can't close the chapter in his life, in the life of the entire world, without keeping his promise. So he goes to the top of that hill, the hill over the river, where he and Joey first promised to one day reunite, way back at the beginning of the game. So you do that. You, as a player, and if you're not using a guide, you may not have thought to do this. Even though I found this scene very good and touching, I'll admit I completely forgot about it. I didn't do the thing.
I think it's cool how the game doesn't tell you to do it in any way.
Yeah.
It's a bold choice to lock so much closure behind. You just have to think to do that, especially, you know, in an era where finding out how to get the true ending on the internet isn't as viable. I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah, the only like hint they give you is in the quote unquote bad ending. Toby's waiting for Joey outside of Muse, but that's not where you said you would wait for each other. So maybe you would think like, wait, this isn't. He's not going to show up there. He's going to show up somewhere else. And so
I think it's a really bold choice. Arguably too bold. It's a long game, man.
It's a very long game.
Maybe they're touching, you know, I know that their touching promise has definitely resonated with Joey with Toby for his entire life, but as for me, I play this game a couple hours a day. A couple hours a week, man, and it's been a long time for me. So yeah, it's definitely really cool. I respect the fuck out of it. So if we are role playing enough to remember that Toby has a big hole in his heart where his best friend is, we go to the place where we promised to meet each other, and sure enough, Joey is right there waiting for him. So he didn't die. He escaped the castle's collapse. There he is. And he says, and once again, I will read verbatim, he says, just like you promised, here we are once again. This is where our journey began. Actually, he says this is where out journey began, but this is a serious scene, so I'm not going to make fun of the typos. He says, you and I walked along the same path for so long together, but this is where they began to diverge. But I have no regrets. But if I did, it would be that I had to betray the city-state and assassinate Lady Annabelle. You and I were a lot alike. We were both aiming for the same thing. But I just... ... At the Highland camp, after I let you escape ahead, I was captured and met Luca Blight again. I hated him from the beginning, it's true. But I think I admired his strength a little bit, too. I thought that if I was that strong, I could protect everyone, and I could create a gentle world where nobody would ever be hurt. And then he says a few more lines of him sort of like trying to catch himself, and then he says, forget about it. He says, this is a battle between the leaders of two different countries. This is truly the final battle. So then we get truly the final battle, where they do one of the best things in all of video games, which is that the really sad, quiet, dramatic music that had been playing during this scene continues during the final duel. And if you're me, you're role playing, and instead of just killing the heck out of him, so at this point, if you didn't get all 108 stars, you can do two things. You can kill him, or you can not kill him. But either way, you actually get the same ending. You'll see what I mean in a second. So if you're me, you hit defend every time. You know, you're thinking, I've played the name of a game that I won't spoil. I know how this works. I'm going to hit defend every time and not fight him, right? If you do, though, it pretty much goes the same way, so don't worry about it. So we do that, and then it goes back into a cutscene. And he says, no, you have to kill me. He's like, I'm carrying on the line of Luca Blight, or the Blight family. Like, as long as Highland, as long as the people of Highland is still around, people are going to have hope, and they're going to want to revive hope. You need to kill me and end war forever. So we go back into battle. For me, you hit defend a whole bunch. But the reason it doesn't matter is because after you hit defend a whole bunch, we go back into a cutscene, and Joey falls to his knees all of a sudden. And I'm like, I didn't attack you. Why are you falling to your knees like you're in severe pain? Then he explains, and this is why he fell to the ground dramatically earlier in the game too. He says he actually used his Black Sword rune to stop the Beast rune from gaining its full power. We thought we defeated the Beast rune, but actually we just kind of finished it off. He's the one who stopped Luca from using the Beast rune to like make a giant monster and like consume everything or whatever. Like he did that. Turns out that the Black Sword rune and the Shining Shield runes are supposed to come together to make the true rune, as we learned earlier. And that's what's used to stop the Beast rune. But you can also use it by yourself, but it takes so much life energy that it'll kill you. So that's what's happening here. We didn't come together to use it, so he had to use it on his own, and now he's paying the price. He asks us to give us his hand so that he can end his own life and give us the Black Rune. Like, if we hold out our hand, he'll like transfer the Black Rune to us, but this will kill him. We refuse like 20 times. He says, no, you've got to let me die. This is for the best. And you can say like, okay, fine, I understand, or like ... no. I pick no like 50 times, but it is in fact a but thou must. For most of us. It's a but thou must. So finally, we put out our hand, he gives us his rune, and he dies. Before he dies, he gives a really beautiful speech about it's a very bitter speech. Like, it is beautiful, but it's also quite bitter, about how history is going to remember things a certain way. He's like, history is going to remember us as a hero. History is going to remember him as not just a villain, not just a misguided person, but as a psychopath, as a fucking tyrant. He says that even the people of Highland, even his former soldiers, are going to be glad that we defeated them, because they're going to be glad that the great hero Toby saved them from their deceitful their deceitful king, who was fooling all of them with his evil ways. So he kind of goes on about this, and then he says that all that being said, he does wish us the best. He says that I really hope that you're going to be a good king. You know, history is going to remember you as a great conquering hero, and I hope that you create a better society for everybody. And then he dies, and then we get the same ending as before. So that's the end of the game. Very good, dramatic ending, very heartbreaking. Yeah, I like both personally.
I don't like either of those endings. Is there a different ending, Bernard?
There's a different ending.
I was about to ask for commentary, but since Sam already did the segue, let's transition into the third ending, which you can only get if you got all 108 stars.
Yes, am I doing this one?
Yeah.
Yes.
You can,
Okay.
you said you can, right?
Yes, I took notes on it.
He deserves to do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. So if you have all 108 stars of Destiny, everything happens exactly like Maddy Grace said. You defend, and you refuse many times as Joey asks you to let him die. If you refuse enough times, a power flows through Toby and Joey's runes, healing Joey. And Leknot appears out of nowhere, as she does. She says, the rune of beginning, it only appears when the holders of the two runes face each other in combat, just as when the world was first born. Toby, even so, you chose not to fight. That spirit and the spirit of the 108 stars of destiny, they have called forth the power of the true rune of beginning. Toby, just as I thought, you are a strong man. Please go. Toby, Joey, the world is still mostly unknown to you, overflowing with new things. There's no reason for you to stay in these lands. Joey says, but I murdered people with my own two hands. Lady Annabelle, Luca Blight, and all those soldiers, my sins are heavy. Leknot says, and they will not disappear so long as you live, but I believe you're strong enough to go on and make the world a better place. Leknot disappears. Joey joins the party. We actually get the screen that pops up when someone joins your party.
Oh, that rules.
And it makes me happy.
My heart.
As they leave, Shu walks up. He says he wished Toby would stay and lead the country, but he understands that he must leave. But there's one last thing he has to report. Shu says, although I was asked not to tell you until this point, I'll understand if you wish to punish me for disloyalty. When Nanami fell in the Matilda Kingdom, we flash back to Nanami's death. Juan asks Shu to step inside. Shu finds Nanami inside, alive. Nanami says, I'm thinking about getting away from Toby for a while. Shu says Toby will be saddened to hear that. Nanami says, I know that, but it's hard for me. Toby and Joey fighting, and it's hard for me to see Toby in pain. When there were arrows raining down on us and Toby tried to shield me with his body, I realized it. Toby shouldn't do such a thing. He's too important for that. Shu agrees a leader of men can't behave like that. Nanami says, that's why I'm going to let you have him all to yourself for a while. Shu asks, what will you do? Nanami says, I'll go back to Grandpa Ginkaku's house. I think it's safe, and besides, when this is all over, that kid will need a place to return home to, right? Also, I have a favor to ask. If it's ever time for Toby to come home, tell him about this conversation. Shu asks, why do you want me to do it? Nanami says, because I figured if it's you, you'd never tell him unless it was absolutely necessary. And Shu agrees to it. We see Joey and Toby return to Kiaro Village. They reunite with Nanami. After paying their respects to Ginkaku, they set off on a journey. They check in on Jilia and Pilika. Joey watches them from afar, and then they leave. But it looks like Pilika noticed him. But they continue on their journey. During the credits, it shows a little where are they now for everyone in all the Stars of Destiny you got. And I like the ones for Nanami and Toby in this ending. For Nanami, it says, after reuniting in Kiaro, the three friends continued to journey together merrily. And for Toby's says, To him, the smiles of Joey and Nanami are his greatest treasures. And that's the true ending.
I like that.
That's really good. I thought you were going to say something like, oh, like, Nanami just didn't die and they just didn't tell you. And I'm like, that's bullshit. Nothing I hate more in a narrative than when, like, the writer of the narrative withholds information from the reader just for the sake of making some, like, fake drama and then later tells you. And it's like, wait, you just jerked me around for no reason. Like, there wasn't any, like, diegetic justification for it. You're just trying to get an emotional reaction. But this is because Nanami, because of that's so cool. It's all character driven. I love that.
It is character driven.
Good thing there were only 8 Star Wars movies, so that they never got around to doing anything like that in the 9th one.
It is all character driven, but I feel like Nanami sort of did a bad thing here, letting her brother think she died.
Well, yeah, when you first started saying that Nanami wanted to get away, I was thinking it was more like, my brother can't be worrying about me all the time. That's gonna, like, it's better for him to think that I'm dead and actually be able to do his job, you know?
Yeah.
But that's actually not really her motivation. That is interesting, though. But that's cool, a moment of weakness, right? For a character that is, like, the moral center of the game in so many ways.
Yeah, it's an interesting scene seeing her, sort of vulnerable.
Like she's been so strong through it all, and for her to just be like, no, I can't deal with this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I also think it resonates because the supposed 4th ending that I think was not this, was it 2 episodes ago? Or was it last? Yeah.
2 episodes ago.
Yeah, where you could just run away with her. I think that she always had that in her. It was just more keeping to that same beat. It was always there, you know, the doubt.
Mm-hmm. And I really like that she wasn't just saying, oh, Toby needs to not focus on me and do the stuff. She specifically brought up that he basically put the world on the line by putting himself on the line to protect her from the arrows. And so he needs to do his big important thing and not only be protecting her. So it's not just he needs to focus on his stuff, but like he nearly screwed the whole pooch just to deflect an arrow for me.
Yeah. And also to me, like, you know, this reminds me of there's such a common trope where, like, we've seen even in this game where someone's like, I'm going to do a selfless thing that is bad for me but good for everyone else. And they announce that, and everyone's like, no, don't. We won't let you. We won't let you sacrifice yourself. You know, like when Teresa was like, I'll hold them off. And everyone's like, no, don't. We're rescuing you. You know, it's so common. Here's the thing. I think this is true both in real life and in narratives. Not all the time. Not as a general rule. Okay, don't go be irresponsible here. But sometimes there are situations where really the right thing to do is to do something that is very selfless and is not good for you, for someone else. If you're going to do that, sometimes you have to not give them a say in it. Like, you just have to do it. Because you know they're not going to want you to do it. Most of us don't have situations like that are that dramatic in life. But I've had one or two. I've also had a lot of minor ones, you know, where it's like, I'm unilaterally making this decision. And if I let anyone else have a say, they would not let me do it because they're trying to be nice, but actually that's bad. So the fact that Nanami is just like, you need me out of your life in order to focus on being a hero. This is the right thing to do for literally everyone. And no, I'm not going to talk to you about it.
Because she tried talking to you about it, and it didn't work for the bad ending, the zombie ending.
That's a good point. At that point, I think she realizes that y'all are different people. Mm-hmm. Like you're no longer the person who just wants to have a peaceful life with his family anymore. You're now saving the world.
Mm-hmm.
But I do agree with Bernard. Telling someone you're dead and not being dead is really fucked up.
It's a bit of an extreme thing to do, for sure. I mean, how did she know that you thinking that Toby thinking that she's dead wouldn't fuck you up so much emotionally that you can't be a good general anymore.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I was thinking she could just like refuse to be in the party.
Yeah.
She could just have Juan tell them that she's very badly wounded, restricted to bed rest.
Yeah. And the reason for that is that the game's designers did have to jerk us around.
Yes.
But I do love that it's like, honestly, this is honestly one of the best justifications for we jerked you around to give you a dramatic twist at the end that I've seen in quite a while.
Yeah, I do feel I've been jerked around, but I can forgive them.
Yeah.
Like, also, it's not an ass pull at all. Like, I think I said last time, like, if they do an ass pull and Nami comes back to life, I might just think it's annoying.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to spoil something from the first game?
Yeah.
So the first game has a... its characters aren't as fully realized as the characters in Suikoden 2, but there's one character who's your... who's the main character's, like, butler guy who helped raise him, dedicated servant, and he's great. You absolutely love him throughout the whole thing. There's a very dramatic scene where he dies a horrible death, sacrificing himself to let everyone else escape. And if you get all 108 stars of destiny, Leknot shows up at the end and is like, I can use the power of my true rune to bring him back. And she does.
See, that's what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Some shit like that.
So that's how it goes in the first game. But Suikoden 2 is much more complex than the first game narratively. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so how about we listen to some final music and then talk about our memorable moments this week and the whole game and our final thoughts and all that shit. All right, so one that I really liked about the ending, even the bad ending, it's all of the where are they now things, is all of the characters who appear in Suikoden 3 mention that they're leaving the city-state to go to the grasslands, which is the setting of Suikoden 3. So they were already planning Suikoden 3 by the time they programmed this ending,
That's really
which I
cool.
thought was really cool.
neat.
Mm-hmm. I say all. It could be more than the ones that say it, but like I didn't even look this up to see it. I just was reading all 108, or for me, like 94 things that came across, and some that I knew were in like every game talked about the grasslands, but then most of the people talked about the grasslands, and I'm like, oh, I see what's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
That's very cool.
I am definitely going to play Suikoden 3 and continue and play all the Suikoden games. I don't know when I'll have time for it, but I loved the first two games so much. I'm definitely going to try to play the rest someday.
Yeah.
I do not think I will go ahead and play the rest of the Suikoden series. Not because I didn't like this game a lot, but because I definitely don't think I would like playing the rest of the Suikoden series as much as I would like playing, I don't know, a Kiseki game.
Kiseki is more important.
Yeah, what I'm saying is there's a lot of fucking games out there. And if there weren't 10 million amazing games out there, I would definitely love to play these games. But given the limited time that we have on this good earth, I think I'll probably leave it at Suikoden 2. But very, very cool game, though. Very, very much appreciated it. Enjoyed playing the hell out of it. I wish I could have given it the time and care that I usually try to give these games. I didn't get to, and that's a shame, but the game rules.
Yeah, it's especially true because Suikoden 2, everyone says, is the best one. It's not like we played a really good one, but like real heads know that Suikoden 5 is the best one. Like, everyone agrees Suikoden 2 is the best. So it's like, do I want to strike gold, but it's not as good 3 more times? Or just, I played this one, I get it. I'm okay with just sampling the best and moving on from there. So I want to play the rest of them, but they might end up on my retirement list where I have 12 hours a day to just play RPGs, and I can do like 3 a week. I'm so looking forward to that, assuming that like the world still exists by the time I turn 65.
25 years from now, man. If things either go good or medium, okay? If things go good, we're in a better place. Maybe there now exists some kind of stable American Socialist Labor Party. We probably shouldn't call it the SLP. That was a weird party. We shouldn't name it. Oh, we got to think of a different name than that. The point is, society is a lot better. Society is a lot more stable. We can all have the time that we need to spend with our loved ones and really get a fullness of experience. Not that everything's perfect or anything. That's best case scenario. Medium case scenario. Everything's exactly the same as it is now, but I've got a sick pension because of my dope fucking job. That's also pretty good. Now, if neither of those two things happen, then I'm going to be very sad. But if things either go good or medium for the world, then I'm going to definitely enjoy a good... If I'm retired for 15 years, I hope to spend at least 5 entire of them simply playing JRPGs.
Yeah.
That'll be almost like to play the Kiseki series.
Yeah.
Of course, they'll probably have released a new one every 2 years.
It's like the fucking Zeno paradox.
Yeah.
What's funny, though, is Suikoden 5 takes place 12 years before Suikoden. And it kind of follows, I think, Gregor M. and like a few of the other characters. Which is odd. So you can kind of... So I'm with Maddy on this. I played Suikoden 3. I think it's the best one, in my opinion. I know most people like this one. But I feel like it's like... And Bernard's doing it the right way, where you should be playing all of them in chronological order. Because they really do build upon each other. There's a lot of characters you really don't know. And they allude to so much. And they don't get the time to shine if you're not doing a lot of the castle activities, the side quests, reading the suggestion box, going to the bathhouse, gardening. There's a lot that you could do to really flesh out these characters. But it's just the commitment of time. It's hard to say, like, and I wonder if this is why they haven't re-released these games or anything. Because it's just like they're so dependent on each other a little,
The reason they haven't re-released them is that Konami made them.
Yeah, that's the reason.
I mean, Konami has re-released some things, but they aren't really going deeper than Castlevania and Contra, so...
They don't seem too interested in video games lately, in general.
Yeah.
But, overall, I think the game, the battle systems... said it the whole time. The top table turn-based battle system will be improved in Suikoden 3, Bernard, so you'll be excited to see that.
Good.
This is like Civilization 2, which is also painful to play. That stuff. But the story just is really great. And it's sad that more people... It's going to take a lot to get people to play it, but just story-wise, it's so good. Like, characters are fully developed, have motivations, there's some anime to all of them, but it's enough where you're like, okay, I can keep going. Like, it's not a deterrent in any way.
Yeah, I probably, if I play another one, it will be the PSP one because it's weird and new, and I'm a hipster, and I always play the weird things in a JRPG series.
Love it.
But, any final memorable moments from this week or thoughts on the game as a whole?
I have one thought, which is God, I wish 2D classic 2D pixel art was something that people were still doing more and more of at a really high budget. It's just such a beautiful game, and it really makes me sad that, like, and of course I don't mean to discount any specific examples that might contradict what I'm saying here, but in general, in the grand scheme of things, I feel like I haven't really progressed beyond this. Like, have you played a game with 2D sprites that had this many bespoke animations made in the last 20 years? I haven't. There's a few companies out there, a few studios, you know, like fighting the good fight, but they're mostly lower or middle budget studios. Like, at the time, this was a big budget game. This was a big budget game. So if you scale that to the modern day, you know, you don't see companies out there being like, yeah, we're gonna spend about as much money as we spent making like Halo 6, but we're gonna put it towards making just like the most fucking incredible 2D two-dimensional JRPG you ever fucking seen in your goddamn life, right?
Here's hoping.
I would love it if, you know, I know there's no reason why this would happen, but I wish the world was like that.
Here's hoping that Iodine Chronicle will scratch that itch for us. The little clips in the Kickstarter seem to be animated really well in a really awesome sort of way. It is HD 2D-esque because it's not a Square game, so it's not actually HD 2D, but it is not purely sprites, but the sprites that they have are pretty, and so I'm hoping that making $1 bajillion, the game A doesn't suck and B is real pretty. So maybe we'll see that as the only one.
Suikoden 2 was so good. I liked the characters. I liked so many of the narrative decisions. It was very bold. And I just want to put out there, if anyone wants to hack into the English version of Suikoden 2 and put all the text in a spreadsheet, maybe I'll find the time to go through and fix the typos and make the lines that don't make sense based on my understanding of my vague understanding of Japanese. I can't actually speak Japanese, but like generally I know enough to know like I can archaeologize what sort of nonsense was going on there. Probably I should, you know, collaborate with someone who knows Japanese. But I just want there to be a definitive version hack of this game that fixes the script, because it deserves so much better than the complete lack of editing that it got.
It kind of reminds me of Tactics, because Tactics has the same problem with its localization.
Yeah, I would say that this game, I feel like, has more like outright noticeable just like typographical errors, whereas I feel like that game, Final Fantasy Tactics, is actually less comprehensible. There's a lot fewer. There are fewer text boxes. There are still a couple, but there's not a ton of text boxes in this game. In the text boxes in this game, where I'm just like, what the fuck are you saying?
Yeah,
there are a few, but yeah, I played just the beginning of Final Fantasy Tactics, and I was like, I'm not really sure what's going on.
Yeah. What I like about this game is I'm a little bummed out that it didn't. I was expecting some final twist or development or something. On the other hand, I'm glad that the twist wasn't just like, yeah, the bad guy wants to summon a fucking JRPG Satan, because that would have been so predictable, or would have been so typical. But what really and we've talked about this before, just like, it's just a simple story of a military of a political conflict. It's the same kind you see all the time. Like, two different countries, you know, one of them wants to take some more territory from the other and thinks that they can pull it off, so they're invading. Like, there's no super deep reason for it. They're fighting for like normal reasons. Like, yeah, Luca Blight is an absolute psycho, and he makes decisions that your average military or political leader probably would not make, because of his megalomania, right? But like,
Putin is very akin to.
I mean, yeah, so exactly. Sometimes leaders that have a way too much autocratic power make decisions that don't actually even make like logical sense for the good of your own country that you're taking care of or whatever. But like within that very simple, realistic scenario that just is so the same as what happens all the time in the real world, they just pack it full of so much nuance and layers and texture. You know, every character's got something going on. Almost all the characters, except for the one that's like a dog or whatever. Most of the characters have something going on. Every characters react to different events in different ways. In this game, it never feels like the party is just a singular unit like it does in most JRPGs. Like, these are a bunch of people, and they all have their own thoughts and feelings about things, and that's really cool.
And like a lot of people give that as a strength to Final Fantasy VI, is that you have like 14 characters, and if you squint, all of them can feel like the main character, and they all tie through their relationship with Kefka and the Empire, and that's why they fight. This game does that with 108 party members, like all 108 minus like Muku and the fucking unicorn, like all of them like have a reason to fight and are fighting. And like you said, it's never like, oh, the royal we go to the castle. It always feels like, okay, Toby's going to the castle and he's bringing these people with him for these specific reasons.
Well, and I think one thing that you just said, Sam, really, I want to hear what Bernard has to say, but I want to mention one thing that you just said really shines light on it, because you said that FF6 does that if you squint, which, yeah, my main criticism of FF6 is that the characters are all actually pretty thinly written. But that's because there's 14 of them, and the game only has so much dialogue. And that's why this game, like, what really makes this game so good, and this is going to sound dismissive of everyone who made this game, but I promise it's not meant to. What makes this game good isn't how great the writers are, how good they were at writing, or how good the game designers were at game designing, or how good the programmers were at programming, or how good the artists were at arting. It's that it was insanely fucking high budget. Like, why do all the characters actually feel really rich? Because you don't have to squint, because they actually get cutscenes that are written for them. This game is filled to the gills with capital C content, and you wouldn't be able to add all of his characters. The only way you can pull off an idea like this is if you have enough time and budget to write a gazillion cutscenes for all these characters, to write different dialogue depending on who's in your party, to write bespoke, to give the artists, pay for the artists to make bespoke animations. Like, you have to be able to bring this vision to life, and you got to have a console that can handle it, like the PlayStation 1. I mean, right?
Konami, that was just how they did things in the PlayStation era. They were putting out shit like Tokimeki Memorial and Metal Gear Solid. Stuff that like no one had ever seen things quite on that level.
Yeah, now that I think about it, like Metal Gear Solid is a great example, because it's like nothing about that game is particularly genius. It's just that a lot of people could have that vision, but you got to have someone that has that vision, and they have to be working with a studio that will support them doing it. It's funny, the people who were in charge of the business side of things, the production, whoever's writing the check, whoever's greenlighting things, whoever's deciding how many people to hire, like it sucks that that's so important. It sucks that that's such a big deal in our like capitalist society, where it's so hard to really make art without this like financial aspect to it. But that's how it is. And it's not very often that you get people who are just like, yeah, we're going to let you go hog wild with this game and put a ton of money into it, And I don't know what this game's budget was. Maybe it wasn't even super high. Maybe they just made really good use of what they had. But like, it seems like a stupendously high budget game that they were allowed to just completely bring to full realization.
Remember back on our first Halloween episode when we played Undertale and we postured, what would it be like if a studio gave we gave some creators a whole bunch of money to create a dense game, not a super big and wide game. And then when we played Chrono Cross, we're like, aha, here it is. But now that we've played Suikoden 2, it's actually Suikoden 2, not Chrono Cross. After your people join your party in Chrono Cross, they are just a magic caster that you choose from a thing. But here in Suikoden 2, they're all at your castle. You can go to your castle and check up on Gingen every fucking time there's a plot revelation, and he has new dialogue as you go through because he's a real ass character. And they just had a lot of money to throw at this cute little RPG that just has a lot of shit going on.
All right. I can't. Wikipedia doesn't have anything about the game's like budget. Like, I don't see any quotes like, this is the most expensive JRPG made in this year or whatever. But I do have the line where it says, and this has a citation. I didn't click the citation, but it does have a citation, so it's probably a good one. It says that Konami was, quote, committed from the start to make a franchise to rival series such as Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy. So to me, that says it had a really high budget.
Yeah, and I believe they fucking did it. I mean, they made something to rival those games. Like, it didn't work out really, largely because it was like 1998 and it was a 2D game and people were too good for that at that point. But if it didn't work out financially, it worked out artistically.
Yeah. I really liked it. I am as much as Wild Arms 2 is in my top 10 games of all time. I'm glad that we played Suikoden 2 instead.
I think
also, apparently the game's director actually when they said that, hey, you want to start directing your own games and head up your own games and you're on your team, he's like, yeah. They're like, what do you want to make? And he's like, a shmup? I really like shmups. And they're like, you're making an RPG, actually. Which is the exact opposite thing that happened to the Panzer Dragoon guy.
I was about to say, that sounds familiar, but different.
That's really funny.
So some of the endings I really liked. Just some highlights was Zamza's, where it basically goes, he left and he's still insufferable. Or Vicky's, where she drank too much champagne and then she blipped somewhere new. And you're just like, what are these endings?
Oh, so that reminds me, speaking of Vicky, so Vicky and Jean appear as party members in all 5 numbered Suikoden games. But as Anthony said, Suikoden 4 takes place 150 years before Suikoden 1, and Suikoden 5 takes place 15 years before Suikoden 1. With Jean, she just winks at the camera and doesn't know her thing. Vicky's blink magic, she doesn't just teleport through space, it's time and space. So if she's not paying attention, she just accidentally ends up 150 years in the past and becomes your teleporter there, which I think is amazing. But she has the same job in all 5 games. She's your teleporter, your fast travel. And
that's silly, but also really good.
Yeah.
I love that. I think one thing that encapsulates how great the writing and characterization in this game is Chaco is just such a great character. He's such a minor character, but
we hated him so much at first.
But he gets like this big scene and then he continues being in the game and having characterization, and I really like him. Like, this minor character gets so much to work with.
Big agree. Chaco rules.
The Maximum Fun podcast Triple Click, they did Suikoden 2, I think 2 months ago. Just the first half. But the one thing that they said that I really, upon beating the game and then recording this podcast, that this game could really easily have a queer narrative. Like, your main character could be, and Joey could be lovers in some way. It's very, you really put your own personality into them as well, especially the main character. And the main character feels like he could like Nanami, he could like Ellie, the traveling circus person. And really, it's just like, he ends up where he wants to be, which is kind of cool in the end, which I really liked. But
For me,
okay.
oh, I was just gonna say, for me, I ship Toby and Ellie. I'm really sad that Ellie doesn't get to be with Toby, go on their journey.
I think that's super cute.
But
in my ending, they are together. She stays at the castle. So
That's true.
but yeah, this game is good.
Good job. Let me hit back on Wikipedia a couple times. Good job, Yoshitaka Murayama, who has made basically just Suikoden, and then he left Konami and did some other shit that I have. Oh, he made a shmup. Good for him.
He did it.
Good job. You did it.
But yeah, so that wraps up our journey through Suikoden 2. Join us next week as we watch we're watching the movie adaptation of The Water Margin. I forget what year it came out, but
I'll
it's
look real quick.
it's the so there are like 4 ancient Chinese novels akin to the Iliad and the Odyssey that every Asian story is based on. One of them is Journey to the West. It's Dragon Ball. Everyone knows that one. The other one is Romance of the Three Kingdoms. That's basically everything else. There's another one, I forget what it is, and then the 4th one is The Water Margin. And so in The Water Margin, there are 108 heroes that come and do all the things, just like in Hero 108 and The Wonderful 101 and all of those sorts of 100 odd hero games, such as Suikoden. So we will be watching that next week, where we will also announce who won the poll. Right now, it's kind of neck and neck, and unfortunately, the one that we tried to beg people to vote for is not winning, because that's what our listeners do. Is every time we're like, "Hey, you should go vote for Persona 2," they're like, "No. How dare you attempt to put your finger on the scale?" And so I think SMT4 is still winning. I'm going to check right now.
While you check, I'll give the information on the movie. It is the 1972 film The Water Margin. The book is sometimes called Water Margin or The Water Margin in English. So this is The Water Margin, 1972, by the Hong Kong-based Shaw Brothers Studio. And I am excited to watch it.
Persona 2 currently has 2 votes, and SMT4 has 3 votes. So it's very close. It could turn around over the next week, but knowing our listeners, we will get 7 more votes for SMT4.
I need to give a couple of important pieces of information. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. This is very important. That game that he finally made that I said it was a shmup, good for him, it's not. It's a third-person shooter for the PS2. I bet it fucking sucks, and I need to play it really bad. Second of all, its soundtrack... I learned a couple things. First of all, the game we just played, Suikoden. Suikoden 2. Its soundtrack is 105 tracks. Great soundtrack, by the way. We haven't talked about it enough. It's great.
They didn't do 108 tracks. They stopped 3 short.
I'll need 3 more. Come on. Anyway, it's a great OST. It's all bangers. And it's anyway, the composers are a lady named Miki Higashino. Okay. She wrote almost all of the soundtrack, like 98 of the tracks. But there were also tracks by Keiko Fukami, who I don't know who that is, and then one song by Tappy. That's right, the guy who wrote the soundtrack to Metal Gear Solid 1. So that's really cool. That's a fun little fact. Makes sense. It's Konami, right? Second fun fact. The shmup 1,000, or the not shmup, the third-person shooter for the PS2 that I bet Jane could help. 1,000 bullets.
10,000 bullets.
10,000 bullets.
10,000 bullets is composed by two composers, one of whom is Miki Higashino, so same composer as Suikoden 2, and the other one is Yasunori Mitsuda.
Doing a third-person shooter.
Just some very important information I thought you all would need to know.
All right.
That is important information. So, do you have the list of our warriors? Should we explain our new tiers?
Oh, yeah. I should do that this week. Thank you for reminding me.
I gotta go take my nap. I'm gonna go do... You do this.
All right.
Okay.
Goodbye, everybody. Y'all are the best. See you later.
Bye.
Where's the button? There it is.
Bernard, tell people some of the behind the scenes changes as I get this going.
So, we on our Ko-Fi, we now have 3 tiers of monthly support. We have $1 a month gets you the Gadabout tier, which gives you green name in the Discord, access to Book Club no Kaseki a month before everything else. You can access the polls to vote for our next game, which should be Persona 2. For $5 a month, you unlock our Warrior tier, which has all the previous benefits, plus we will shout you out by name at the end of every podcast episode. We'll give you a little shout out. Then, for $20, we have our Luminary tier, where we will give you a shout out and we can plug one of your socials or website or whatever you want, as long as it's not naughty or crypto shit or something. You know, we reserve the right to say no. But yeah, and we have a lot of episodes of this show. They come out a lot. So I think $20 a month is pretty good for that.
Yeah. So if you are starting a Twitch channel and you want 12 shout outs a month on the high end, $20 is pretty great for that. And we average about like 150 downloads per episode, so it's like 150 eyes or ears hearing. Well, it'd be 300 ears hearing your Twitch URL. So it seems like a pretty good deal if you ask me. But our warriors want a special shout out to Vimk, Jfro Prime, Eli Bergmoss, I believe. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. You're active in the Discord and you listen every week, so you will tell me when I did it wrong. And then our good friend Doho, and of course Tuxedo Ken. Thanks to all of you for supporting us. And if you want us to butcher your name like I butchered Eli's, then you can donate for $5 on www.rpgbook.club and help us pay for games, try and get a little closer to liquid so that I'm not having to throw away a lot of money every month to keep this going.
Please give us money. We work hard.
We work very hard.
As the guest host, just behind the scenes, seeing the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, they do a lot of work, planning, scheduling. There's a lot of thought and effort that comes in it that you can't really see on the audio side. So whatever you can really helps them out, and they deserve it. It's a lot of work.
Thank you.
Sometimes you can see it when I accidentally post in Now Playing instead of Host Only.
But I think that will do it for the week. So for RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Hauk.
And I'm Anthony Lerma.
Thank you for joining us, Anthony. It's been great. I've loved having another Brando Sandinitis on the on the podcast. It's been great. You feel free to join us for Water Margin or not, whichever you want to do.
I probably will, just because now I'm addicted to talking with y'all.
All right. Toodaloo, folks.
Bye.
Bye.